Chapter 1. The Shattered Marriage. Elena's hand trembled as she shoved open the door to her office, the sharp echo of wood against glass slicing through the silence. She had come back late, restless, convinced she had forgotten a key file on her desk. Instead, she found her husband, Daniel, leaning close to the woman she hated most, Sophie, her professional rival. Their whispers stopped at once, and in that sudden stillness, Elena knew. Her husband didn't even flinch. Sophie smiled as though she had been waiting for this moment. The betrayal wasn't hidden, wasn't softened, it was naked, deliberate, cruel. Elena's voice cut through the air. "You're cheating on me with her?" Daniel straightened, but there was no guilt in his eyes, only irritation that he had been caught. Sophie tilted her head, lips curving in satisfaction, and placed a hand on Daniel's arm like a signature on a contract. It wasn't just the affair. Elena could feel it in the tense way they stood, in the stack of papers hastily shoved aside. She crossed the room and yanked the folder from Sophie's hand. Her stomach dropped. Inside were copies of Elena's confidential case strategies, the very work that defined her career. Her pulse thundered. "You stole my files?" Daniel finally spoke, calm and rehearsed. "It's business, Elena. Nothing more. You've been so focused on your reputation, you forgot marriage is a partnership." Sophie appreciates the value of sharing. Rage blurred her vision. It wasn't just her husband's body Sophie had taken, it was her case, her credibility, her years of ruthless sacrifice. She had fought tooth and nail to earn her place, and now the two people closest to her plotted to gut it from the inside. "You signed something, didn't you?" she demanded. "What deal did you make behind my back?" Neither answered, but Sophie's smirk was confirmation enough. Elena felt the world tilt. Her marriage was a lie. Her professional empire was under siege, and the knife twisting in her chest was wielded by the man she had once trusted above all others. The humiliation was unbearable, but Elena refused to break in front of them. With measured steps, she walked to the desk, gathered the stolen files, and whispered, "You think you've beaten me, but you have no idea who you're up against." Sophie's smile widened. Daniel's jaw tightened. And Elena left the office without giving either of them the satisfaction of seeing her tears. But once outside, her breath hitched and her heart crumbled. Every image of their marriage, the late nights, the whispered promises, the illusions of love shattered into dust. For one brutal moment, Elena thought of walking away from everything. From Daniel, from Sophie, from the case itself. And then another thought burned brighter. Revenge. She couldn't destroy them by walking away. She had to fight. But fighting meant facing Adrian, the rival counsel who would stop at nothing to see her fall. She wasn't ready to face him. Not tonight. But fate didn't wait for her permission. The following morning, as Elena entered the courthouse, Adrian was already there. Tall, magnetic, with a presence that commanded the entire hall, he stepped into her path like he had been waiting. His smile was a weapon, sharp and calculated. "Rough night?" he murmured. Elena's throat tightened. How much did he know? She had guarded her private life fiercely, but somehow, Adrian always seemed one step ahead. His eyes lingered on her, not with pity, but with the kind of curiosity that stripped defenses bare. She forced her voice steady. "Out of my way." But he didn't move. Instead, he leaned closer, lowering his voice to a whisper meant only for her. "Your husband and Sophie are amateurs. You deserve better enemies." The words cut deeper than she wanted to admit. Adrian knew. Somehow, he knew. Her eyes narrowed. "And you think that's you?" He chuckled, a dark sound that slid under her skin. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm the only one who can help you bring them down." The suggestion was poison and temptation rolled into one. He was the enemy. Aligning with him meant betraying every principle she had lived by. Yet the fire in his eyes told her he wasn't bluffing. He knew things that could ruin Daniel and Sophie if she dared to take his hand. Her chest tightened. She hated him. She wanted him. She wanted to destroy him. And yet, the thought of his alliance, of using his cunning to outplay her husband and her rival, was intoxicating. She bit out the only words she could muster. "I don't need your help." Adrian's smile deepened, slow and predatory. "Then why are you shaking?" Her breath caught. She was trembling, and she hated herself for it. Trembling not from fear, but from the way his presence electrified her veins. He stepped back, just enough to let her pass, but as she brushed by him, his voice followed her, low and deliberate. "I can ruin them for you. But what will you give me in return?" The words clung to her skin like heat, and though she walked away, her resolve was no longer steady. Daniel's betrayal had shattered her heart, but Adrian's offer was reshaping her rage into something sharper, deadlier. That night, alone in her apartment, Elena replayed everything. Daniel's smug face, Sophie's satisfied smirk, Adrian's piercing gaze and whispered promise. Her fury consumed her until it became clarity. If she wanted revenge, she couldn't do it alone. But could she truly trust Adrian, the man she had sworn to defeat in court? Could she survive being pulled into his dangerous orbit? Her reflection stared back from the darkened window, haunted and unrecognizable. She wasn't just a betrayed wife anymore. She wasn't just a lawyer fighting a case. She was a woman on the edge of ruin, with nothing left to lose. And sometimes, those are the most dangerous of all. Elena clenched her fists, whispering into the silence. "If Adrian wants a price, he'll get it. But I'll make sure I come out the one holding the blade." In the quiet, the clock ticked toward midnight, each second a reminder that her war had already begun. She knew the next time she saw Adrian, she would have to answer his question. And her answer would change everything. Chapter 2. Enemies entwined. Elena's fingers clenched around the flash drive Adrian had slipped into her hand. She hadn't slept, her mind caught in a storm of betrayal, temptation, and rage. The files on that drive could bury Daniel and Sophie. They could also expose Adrian. She had no reason to trust him, and every reason not to. But the choice was already made. She couldn't fight them alone. By the next evening, she was seated across from Adrian in a dim conference room, the air heavy with unspoken tension. He lounged like a man who owned every shadow, watching her with a half-smile that unnerved her more than any courtroom ambush. Her voice was low and sharp. "Why, help me? What's your angle?" Adrian leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Because I hate amateurs. And your husband and Sophie? They're children playing at war. I'd rather go up against someone who knows how to draw blood." The insult stung and flattered at once. She wanted to slap him. She wanted to kiss him. Instead, she forced her attention back to the documents glowing on her laptop screen. The damning contract stared back. Daniel's signature scrawled across an agreement that traded Elena's case for Sophie's advancement. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated annihilation. Her pulse hammered. Adrian's eyes flicked to her trembling hand. "You see now? He didn't just cheat on you. He sold you." The words struck like a blade. She snapped the laptop shut. "I don't need your commentary." Adrian only smirked. "You need more than commentary, Elena. You need me." The silence stretched, thick with defiance and dangerous chemistry. She hated that he was right. She hated that she wanted him close, even as every instinct screamed to push him away. The next morning, Sophie struck first. In court, she presented evidence Elena knew had been stolen from her, twisting Elena's own arguments into weapons against her. The sting of humiliation burned as whispers rippled through the room. Daniel sat smugly behind Sophie, his expression daring Elena to crumble. But she didn't crumble. She held her spine rigid, her gaze locked on Sophie with venomous calm. Inside, however, she was drowning. Her credibility was slipping. Her empire was crumbling piece by piece, and Sophie was tearing it apart with the tools Daniel had handed her. That evening, Elena stormed into Adrian's office. She slammed her hands on his desk, her fury spilling out. "You said you'd help me. Well, do it, because I won't watch them destroy me." Adrian's expression flickered with amusement. "You're beautiful when you're furious." Her voice cut like glass. "This isn't a game." He rose, closing the space between them, his presence overwhelming. "No, it's war, and wars are won by alliances, not pride." She felt the heat of him, the intoxicating pull she refused to name. Their eyes locked, and suddenly the argument wasn't about strategy. It was about survival, temptation, and the storm tearing through them both. Her breath caught as he whispered, "Let me fight with you, Elena." For one reckless moment, the dam broke. She surged forward, lips crashing against his. The kiss was fire and fury, every ounce of rage melting into forbidden desire. His hands gripped her shoulders, hers tangled in his hair, and for those few searing seconds, enemy and ally blurred into one. When she pulled back, she was trembling. "This is a mistake." Adrian's smile was wicked. The best mistakes usually are. Guilt gnawed at her, but longing pulsed stronger. She couldn't let herself need him, but the memory of that kiss burned hotter than her rage. The next day in court, Sophie tried again to humiliate her, wielding documents she claimed proved Elena's negligence. Elena's chest tightened as the judge examined the evidence, but Adrian leaned toward her with a whisper only she could hear. "Stay calm. Let her dig her own grave." And then, with deliberate precision, Sophie overplayed her hand. She referenced details only Daniel could have provided. Elena seized the opening. Her voice rang clear, cutting through the courtroom like a whip. "Strange how my husband's private notes end up in your possession, Sophie. Almost as if you've had inside help." The room buzzed with shock. Sophie froze, and Daniel's smugness faltered. It wasn't victory yet, but it was the first crack in their armor. That night, Adrian found Elena outside the courthouse, her eyes still blazing with adrenaline. He offered a small, almost tender smile. "You were brilliant today." She shook her head. "Not brilliant enough. They still hold too many of the cards." Without a word, Adrian slipped his hand into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. He pressed it into her palm. "Then take this. It will tip the balance." Her chest tightened. "What is it?" His gaze lingered on hers. "Proof. But if you use it, you'll expose me too. It's your choice." She unfolded the paper slowly, her heart pounding. And there it was, the final weapon. A hidden ledger, linking Daniel and Sophie to illegal payments and falsified evidence. The room tilted around her. With this, she could destroy them, but the cost would be Adrian's ruin. Her eyes lifted to his, searching for answers. But Adrian only smirked faintly, as though daring her to decide. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why give this to me?" Adrian's reply was quiet, but devastating. "Because I'd rather lose everything than see them win." The confession sliced through her chest, leaving her breathless. She didn't know if it was truth or manipulation, but it didn't matter. The stakes had changed forever. Back in her apartment, Elena plugged the flash drive into her laptop, her hands shaking. The screen flickered, lines of data scrolling, and then, there it was. Daniel's name, his signature, his betrayal, preserved in black and white. Her heart cracked open again, but this time, the pain fused with resolve. Daniel hadn't just betrayed her love. He had sold her soul to Sophie. And now, she had the evidence to destroy them both. But the question that haunted her, as the screen glowed in the dark, could she do it without destroying Adrian too? The flash drive hummed quietly, its secrets pulsing like a loaded gun. And Elena sat frozen, knowing the next move she made would decide not just her case, but her future. Chapter 3. The Double Cross. Elena stared at the damning contract glowing on her screen. Daniel's signature etched like a knife wound across her life. The evidence was there, clear and undeniable. He had sold her case, her reputation, and her trust for Sophie's gain. But just as the flames of vengeance surged within her, Adrian's voice cut through the silence. "I should tell you something." She turned sharply, her pulse spiking at the gravity in his tone. Adrian wasn't smirking this time. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by a rare, unguarded intensity that chilled her more than any courtroom ambush ever had. His words fell like a hammer. "I was part of it, from the beginning." Her breath caught. "You're lying." But he wasn't. His gaze didn't waver. He confessed that his firm had been aligned with Daniel and Sophie's scheme, that he had agreed to play his role in dismantling her from the inside. He admitted he was supposed to let her burn. The room spun. Every nerve in her body screamed to walk away, to destroy him, to hate him. Yet her chest ached with a cruel contradiction. She wanted to believe the man who had kissed her like she was the only woman alive. Her voice cracked, trembling with fury. "So this, everything you've done, it was just another trap?" Adrian's jaw clenched. "At first, yes, but then, I met you, and I couldn't do it." His words should have been a balm, but they only deepened the wound. If he had lied once, he could lie again. And yet, his eyes burned with something raw, something desperate, something dangerously close to truth. Elena turned away, gripping the edge of her desk until her knuckles whitened. You used me. You played with my life, my heart, just like they did. His reply was hoarse. No, Elena. I betrayed them for you, and now they want me gone as much as they want you destroyed. The confession struck her like a thunderclap. He had defected. He had chosen her, risking his career, his reputation, his entire future. But could she trust that choice? Or was it just another layer of manipulation? The next day, the courtroom felt like a battlefield. Sophie strutted in with the arrogance of victory, Daniel close behind with his smirk carved deep. Elena sat tall, her fury hidden beneath a mask of icy calm. Adrian, seated across the aisle, met her gaze only once, his expression unreadable. When Sophie unveiled her latest weapon emails and depositions that painted Elena as negligent, the whispers grew louder. Elena felt the walls closing in, but she stood, her voice slicing through the noise. Objection. The foundation of this evidence is compromised. The judge raised an eyebrow, demanding proof. Elena hesitated, the flash drive heavy in her briefcase like a beating heart. She had enough to obliterate them, but using it meant dragging Adrian down with them. Her hesitation was brief, but Sophie saw it, and her smile widened. Daniel leaned forward, lips curling as he whispered across the aisle. You're finished, Elena. And when you fall, no one will remember your name. Elena's fury surged, but so did her doubt. She turned her head, just slightly, and met Adrian's gaze. His eyes pleaded, not for himself, but for her. He wanted her to win, even if it cost him everything. That night, the storm broke. Elena confronted him in his office, the city lights blazing behind her like fire. You've given me the power to destroy them, but if I use it, I destroy you too. Adrian rose, closing the distance between them, his voice steady. Then do it. If that's the price, pay it. I deserve it. Her chest tightened. And what if I don't want to lose you? The words slipped out before she could stop them, raw and vulnerable. The air between them cracked with unspoken longing and unrelenting rage. Adrian's hand hovered near her cheek but never touched. His whisper was fierce. Then we fight together. But understand this. Elena, if you hold back, they will win. And if they win, they will ruin you in ways you can't yet imagine. His intensity seared her. She hated that he was right. She hated that her heart leapt at his nearness even as her mind screamed betrayal. Elena crafted her counterattack that night, weaving her fury into strategy. She would not reveal her full evidence yet. Instead, she would bait Sophie into overconfidence, let Daniel expose his hand, and strike when the world was watching. The following hearing was a spectacle. Sophie strutted forward with smug certainty, presenting her forged evidence. Elena listened, silent and patient, until the perfect moment arrived. Then she rose, her voice laced with venom. Your Honor, I submit that the opposing counsel has based her claims on documents obtained through corrupt channels. Channels tied directly to my husband. Gasps filled the room. Sophie faltered. Daniel stiffened. Adrian's expression remained unreadable, but Elena felt his support like a shadow at her back. Sophie stammered, but the damage was done. The judge allowed the proceedings to continue, but the air had shifted. Doubt now clung to Sophie, and Daniel's carefully polished facade cracked. As the session ended, Daniel cornered her in the corridor, his mask slipping into raw rage. His voice was venom. If you drag me down, Elena, I will take him with me. Adrian, do you think I don't know about you two? Her breath froze. Daniel's eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. Expose me, and I'll make sure the world knows your new lover conspired against you from the start. You'll both be finished. Her chest constricted, fury colliding with terror. Adrian's betrayal, his confession, his sacrifice, it all twisted together in a storm that left her gasping for clarity. Daniel leaned closer, his words dripping poison. Choose carefully, Elena. Revenge or love. You can't have both. She didn't flinch, but inside, her world quaked. For the first time, she realized the depth of her dilemma. Destroy Daniel and Sophie, and she risked destroying Adrian with them. Protect Adrian, and she might lose everything she had fought for her entire life. That night, Elena stood alone before her window, the city sprawling beneath her like a kingdom she no longer controlled. Her reflection stared back at her, hollow-eyed, haunted, furious. For years, she had defined herself by victory. But now, victory came at a price she wasn't sure she could pay. Adrian's words echoed in her head, his touch still burned on her lips, and Daniel's threat coiled around her throat like a chain. The war wasn't just in the courtroom anymore. It was inside her heart, tearing her apart. Her whisper was almost a vow. If I have to burn everything to win, I will, but God help me if I lose him in the fire. And as the clock struck midnight, Elena knew the next move would decide not just her case, not just her revenge, but the fate of the man she could no longer deny she loved. Chapter 4. Scarlet Reckoning. Elena entered the courtroom knowing this was the day everything would end one way or another. Her enemies sat smugly at the opposing table. Sophie with her predatory smile, Daniel with his mask of arrogance that barely concealed his panic, and across the aisle, Adrian. His expression was unreadable, but his presence steadied her in ways she would never admit aloud. The judge called the session to order, and Sophie leapt first, wielding a stack of papers like a dagger. She painted Elena as reckless, corrupt, desperate. Every word dripped poison. Each accusation sharpened to shred what remained of Elena's credibility. But Elena didn't flinch. Not this time. When the floor was hers, she rose with lethal calm. Her voice carried through the chamber with a force that silenced every whisper. Your Honor, I would like to call Daniel to the stand. Gasps rippled through the room. Sophie shot Daniel a sharp glance, but he had no choice. He adjusted his tie, feigning composure, but sweat glistened on his brow. Elena approached, eyes cold and unyielding. Daniel, she began, do you deny entering into private agreements that compromise the integrity of this case? His voice was steady at first. Of course I deny it. I would never… She cut him off, slamming the contract onto the evidence table. Then explain this. Your signature. Your betrayal. Your price tag. The room erupted. Daniel's face drained of color as the judge demanded silence. He fumbled for words, but Sophie's panic betrayed them both. She tried to object, but Elena pressed forward with ruthless precision. You sold me, Daniel. To her. To Sophie. And you conspired to falsify evidence in exchange for personal gain. The proof is right here, undeniable, and it traces back to both of you. Sophie's composure cracked. She jumped to her feet, her voice shrill. He signed it, not me. I had nothing to do with… But her outburst was her undoing. Elena struck fast, revealing the ledger Adrian had given her. This document links you directly to illegal payments tied to the falsified evidence. You weren't a victim, Sophie. You were the mastermind. The judge's gavel pounded, but the damage was done. Sophie's empire crumbled in an instant. Daniel's mask shattered into rage, his voice rising. You think you've won, Elena? You've only exposed Adrian. He was part of it too. He betrayed you from the start. The courtroom froze. All eyes turned to Adrian. Elena's chest tightened, but her resolve was unshakable. She turned, her voice slicing the silence. Yes. Adrian was part of it. But unlike the two of you, he didn't stay a traitor. He broke away. He gave me the proof that buried you both. Her words stunned the room. For the first time, Adrian's mask slipped, and something raw and unguarded flickered across his face. Daniel sputtered, grasping for control. You'll go down with him. No one will trust you again. But Elena's reply was ice and fire. Better to stand beside a man who chose redemption than to rot with liars who chose betrayal. The judge reviewed the documents with grim finality. Sophie's protests turned to screams. Daniel's fury to desperate threats, but nothing could stop the gavel's thunder. This court finds the evidence admissible. Charges of corruption will be pursued against both Sophie and Daniel. The chamber erupted. Reporters scrambling, voices clashing. Elena stood tall, every nerve electrified, her enemies destroyed in the very arena they sought to own. Outside the courthouse, the chaos blurred into a distant roar. Elena finally allowed herself to breathe. She had won, against betrayal, against humiliation, against the two people who had nearly gutted her life. She had won. But as the crowd dispersed, Adrian appeared at her side. His eyes searched hers with uncharacteristic vulnerability. You didn't have to protect me in there. Her heart twisted. Yes, I did, because despite everything, you chose me. And I can't deny what that means. He stepped closer, voice low. And what does it mean? Her lips parted, trembling with the truth she could no longer bury. It means I love you. God help me, I do. The admission shattered her defenses, but Adrian caught her before the pieces could fall. His hands framed her face, his voice rough with emotion. I've wanted to hear those words since the first moment you hated me. Their kiss ignited like a vow, sealing their fragile, furious, impossible bond. It wasn't neat, it wasn't perfect, but it was real. For the first time in weeks, Elena allowed herself to imagine a future not defined by betrayal, but by the fire they had forged together. She thought of the files, the contracts, the lies, and the threats. Every enemy defeated, every plan executed perfectly. The two people who had almost destroyed her were humiliated, exposed, and powerless, and she stood unbroken. As the sun dipped behind the courthouse, Elena whispered against Adrian's lips, "You were my enemy, and my salvation." And with that, the war was over. Her enemies lay ruined, her name restored, her heart scarred but alive. The story of Elena and Adrian had only just begun. But one truth was certain. Scarlet lies had tried to break her. Instead, they had made her unstoppable. To summarize this story, Elena, a brilliant lawyer, uncovers her husband Daniel's affair and a plot to steal her biggest case. Betrayal, secrets, and forbidden passion force her to team up with Adrian, a dangerous rival. As courtroom battles and shocking twists unfold, Elena outsmarts her enemies, exposes corruption, and reclaims her power. In the end, justice is served, love survives, and Elena emerges unstoppable. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and dramatic romances. Your support truly means so much. Thanks for watching, and I'm excited to bring you the next story soon.